Let me introduce my wonderful, wonderful colleagues from Campus Life and the Global Brown Center. We have Andrew Heald, who is the director of Global Brown, and that is the Center for International Students, and Ruby Cheng, who is the assistant director at Global Brown. And they're going to talk to you about all the stuff we have planned for your students, and then we'll get to some questions afterward.
I am so excited to welcome you all to our very first parents webinar for international identified students. My name is Ruby Cheng. I'm the assistant director at Global Brown Center, and I'm joined by my amazing supervisor, Andrew. And today we're going to spend some time with you to talk a little bit about the Global Brown Center and international student life at Brown, as well as some arrival information. So without further ado, I will invite back Andrew to introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. I am so glad to be spending this time with you today virtually. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're logging in from. I know that we have a lot of folks joining us from all over the world. As Ruby said, my name is Andrew Heald. I am the director of the Global Brown Center. And briefly, I wanted to talk a little bit about our staff before going into a little bit more about the center and our center space. So I'm Andrew. We have Ruby, Dr. Ruby Cheng, our assistant director, joining us, who you'll hear from a little bit more later, and who's not here with us, but who is such a wonderful part of our team, is Serena Robinson, our program coordinator, who supports a lot of the work we do in the center. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Ruby for the agenda.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And so here is our quick presentation overview. We will start with the Global Brown Center introduction and international student at Brown and some of important information for your students.
And back to me. So again, my name is Andrew Heald. I've been the director at the Global Brown Center for International Students for about 4.5 years. And in that time, I have seen our international student community thrive in both challenging. We know that, the world has been sometimes a challenging place over the last 4.5 years, but also in times of joy and in times of community. And during my time at Brown, especially in the center, but also broadly across campus, I have seen a tremendous growth in the investment in international students, in the investment in their experience, both here in the center and academically and career focused. So it's a really exciting time to be joining our community. We're really at the kind of a peak of support for international students at Brown. And so a little bit about the history of the Global Brown Center and our mission. Who are we? How did we get here? And what do we do? The Global Brown Center began at Brown in 2017 as a direct result of student advocacy. And this is really important for me to note in our history, because the only reason the center exists is because students like yours that will be joining us told the university, we need a space on campus for us. We need a space that feels like home. And the university responded by creating this center. And keeping that student voice core to our mission and keeping the reason why we exist core to our mission, we aim to create a home away from home for our international student community. Our mission is to cultivate a sense of belonging, a sense of home, and a sense of community for our international students here at Brown. And secondly, our mission is, if we're creating a welcoming environment for our students, we need to make sure we're addressing the whole campus. And so we also help to educate the broader campus community about the international student experience, about intercultural communication, about global competency, so that we can ensure our students feel welcomed, feel like they belong, and feel like they are at home here. So with that mission in mind, we have a center space and programs that really center the goals of our mission. Our center space is centrally located on campus in Page Robinson Hall. Not important for you to know at the moment, but it will become a very important place for your students in the future. It's where a lot of the international student resources are located. We have a lounge space that our students lovingly call the Globe. You can see it behind me in my virtual background. This space is open 24/7 to our international communities. One of the only spaces on campus that is open 24/7 access for students. And this is really important for us in cultivating that sense of home. No matter what time it is, if you need to take a nap, if you're studying late, your students have a place here in the center. In terms of our programming, you're going to be hearing a lot more about our most important program and the one that is bringing you to this space today, our International Orientation Program and our International Mentoring Program. And Ruby will be talking a lot about that shortly, but I wanted to provide some context for the greater programs in the center. We hope to create a holistic experience for students as they enter Brown University. We start with international orientation, and then throughout their first year and beyond, throughout their entire time at Brown, we focus on building community programs that bring students together, that foster a sense of belonging, cultural programs that uplift your students' individual experiences and highlight the assets that they're bringing into this community. And we focus on cultivating skills and tools for navigating life at Brown and after Brown. And so we hope to build a holistic experience from the very beginning to the time when we're celebrating their graduation together at our end of year celebration. And lastly, the note that I want to make for the GBC is we have our space, we have our programs, but we also have each other, and we have space for students to come to us and talk about anything that they need. We are a kind of first stop for international students. If they're confused about where to go, if they have a question that they don't understand, if they have a concern about their experience in Providence or at Brown, they can come to us and we can either provide them the support and advocacy they need, or we can direct them to the people who do. And so with that, I hope that gives you a little bit of a sense of the Global Brown Center and where international orientation and the International Mentoring Program exist on campus. And with that, I would love to turn it over to Dr. Ruby Chung, who can talk a lot more about those specific programs as we welcome your students to Brown University.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Andrew. And again, my name is Ruby. So I'm super excited to be here today. I used to be an international student myself. I'm originally from China, and I've been in the States for a little over 14 years, completing my undergraduate through my doctoral degree in the US. And my research topic is around international student sense of belonging, international student acculturation process. So super excited to be able to working with your students and along with my colleagues to cultivate the sense of belonging for international students at Brown. So here is a little bit information about how many international students we have on our campus. I know a few of you submitted a question in the survey. 12% of our students, current undergraduate students, are international students. So at Brown, we have a little over 11,000 students in total. And then 1,200 students are undergraduate internationally identified students. And when we say internationally identified students, we mean students who have spent their life overseas before coming to Brown and identify with different culture, no matter if they are on visa or if they are domestic student by status. So we do a lot of really cool events. And here is the breakdown of our incoming international student size. So in the fall, we will be welcoming 368 new international undergraduate students and close to 700 new international graduate students. We're super excited. And I want to share a little bit more about the International Mentoring Program, where we call it IMP, and International Orientation. So your students should have already received an email from us, the Global Brown Center, to share some information about IMP program. And your students are assigned to one summer contact. The summer contact is a mentor within our International Mentor Program. And they are our current internationally identified student leader, and they've been trained to prepare your students for their arrival and answer any questions. And the students were assigned to their summer contact by region. And we will also be hosting some webinars to build a community for your students based on your region. So students will be able to meet each other before they come to Brown. And I will share a little bit more information at the very end of my slides. But the International Mentoring Program, we're celebrating 25 years anniversary this year. And we cultivate not only for pre-arrival support and international orientation for the arrival support, but we're also a one-year support for the first-year international students. We do a lot of workshops, programming, and to help students understand the resources we have on campus and foster community among themselves. And we also have this amazing international orientation, which is part of the IMP program. Everybody is very, very excited to put on our international orientation in August. And I want to share a little bit of data that shows the importance of our IMP program and the importance of international orientation. We have already received a few of the students asking if they can skip IO, international orientation. So we want to say that international orientation is required for international students who are on visa, but it's highly recommended for international identified students who may have associated with different culture to build a sense of belonging and community on campus. And here on the screen, you are seeing is our data we collected a few weeks ago for the first year experience for the class of 2027. 88% of our students who participated IO and IMP feels like they belong at Brown. And we also have a very detailed comparison for students who did not participate IO and IMP, which the sense of belonging percentage is much lower than the students who participate our programming. So if I would say one thing to the parents, one tip is to always encourage your students to participate IO and IMP, and that really, really contribute to their life and community building here on our campus. And the Global Brown Center, we use identity crafting theory, where we really focus on students' assets. So as you can see from the screen, we actually based students based on their international identity. So during one of the day, which is Sunday, during international orientation, we will host an international identity empowerment conference, where we will share with our students that their identity for being international is highly valued and at our community, and how to navigate. Maybe they may experience some difficult or interesting conversations in and outside of their classroom at Brown. How do we navigate, help the students to navigate based on their identity assets? Because we value our international student contribution to our classroom, but also outside of classroom. And I always share with our domestic students that they are so lucky they don't have to travel thousands of miles away to experience a different culture because of the assets the international students are bringing to our Brown community. So we really in our center cultivate our belonging and then help with the transition and help with the community building and with the focus of our student well-being. And I shared a little bit about summer contacts. So we have currently 35 IMP mentors, and they made a really cute video to welcome your students in different languages. And that will be sent out by the end of this week. So please encourage your students to check out their emails. The email will be sent from imp@brown.edu. And during that email, followed by that email, students will be receiving a summer contact from our mentor to talk about how to sign up for international orientation and how to be engaged within the community based on the region for welcoming new international students. So definitely encourage your students to pay attention to summer contacts. And if they do have any questions about their arrival at Brown, please encourage them to reach out and respond and read the email sent in from our summer contact. And we will also be helping students arranging rides. So we understand that international flights can be sometimes challenging, and different. We may have students arrive outside of our work time, and we will create a Excel sheet and be shared with our students, and students can fill out their information about their arrival, whether they're arriving in the airport in New York, Boston, or Providence. They can see who's arriving around the same time. Students will be able to arrange rides during that time. And we will also have shuttle bus to pick students up from Providence airport. And the summer contact will also share throughout the summer how to get to our campus by bus or by Uber, and different type of ways to get to the campus. So definitely work with our student mentors. And here are some additional important dates. We encourage your students to sign up, and that sign up information have already been sent to your students through our GBC email, gbc@brown.edu. So if your students haven't received it, please feel free to email us and then to receive the sign up link. We prepared for your students 2 pre-departure orientation webinars. The first one will be delivered on Wednesday, July 17th from 9 to 10 a.m. And then the second one will be delivered on Monday, August 5th from 9 to 10 a.m. And highly encourage your students to participate. Last year, we had a really lots of fun working with your new students in different Zoom meetings, and they got to connect with each other. They got to connect with our mentor and to build a community, and it really helped them to release some of the stress coming to Brown. So please mark those 2 days and encourage your students to participate. And most importantly, please also encourage your students to participate in international orientation. The move-in date for international orientation will be on Friday, August 23rd. Friday, August 23rd, as you can see from the screen. And the international orientation programming will start from the 24th to the 27th. And we will have welcome desk outside our building, and then your students will be able to find us and then receive all the packet for international orientation, as well as some of the Brown gears. We're super excited, and then they will get the brochures for international orientation during the check-in time. And we also have planned for parents events during our international orientation, which after I finish sharing the screen, I will share some of the dates where you can participate as parents. So on the first day, first night after students move in, on Friday, August 23rd, we will have a family and friends dinner for international students. So all the parents are invited to have dinner with your students and with our amazing staff member. And then we also arranged 2 receptions for parents during our international orientation, which I will share the dates with you later on. And so that is all the key information we would love to have you remember and encourage your students to attend. And with that, I'm gonna stop sharing and hand it back the floor to my colleague, Mikhail.
All right, thank you, Andrew and Ruby. We've had a lot of great questions come in while you were talking, but we encourage people to continue to send us questions if you like. But let me get into some of the questions we had in advance through the registration. Ruby, I'm going to start with orientation. We've had a lot of questions with parents asking when should they arrive and how long they should stay. I can say from my end of things, we will have a parent program on move-in day for the general population. That's August 28th. And then we have a day of programming for August 29th. If you can stay that long, that's great, but you don't have to, because a lot of that will be virtual and you can access that at home. And I'd also want to point out that you can come back again for family weekend if you so choose in October. That's October 25th through 27th. But again, we try and make things accessible and do the key events for those things virtual so you can see them. We have a lot of questions, especially from international folks who talk about convocation and if they should stay for convocation. And convocation is typically centered around students. Parents, if they're around, can certainly join in, but the programming is really for the students, and we do also live stream that. For those of you who don't know what convocation is, it's when the students partake in the tradition at Brown of walking through the gates, the Van Wickle gates, for the first time, and they're not supposed to do it again until they graduate, 4 years from now, but we're not thinking about that yet. So anyway, the ceremony is for them to do that, and you don't have to stay around for it unless you really want to. So those are my notes about when to leave. But Ruby, I don't know if you have any additional thoughts about that.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Mikhail. So for international orientation, some of the events planned for parents will be on the moving day, Friday, August 23rd for our GBC Welcome and Family Dinner. You will be joined by the student and staff member. The dinner will start from 5 p.m., goes until 7 p.m. And then the next parents event will be on Saturday, August 24th. Also at around 6 p.m. in the evening is International Parents Meet and Greet. So you will be able to connect with other parents in case you want to connect with other parents, whether they are from your region or also as new parents for international students. So that's a space for you all to connect. And then the next session for parents will be on Monday, August 26th. And we will have a parents panel. We'll invite colleagues from different areas on campus, including public safety, wellness center, insurance experts to talk lots about insurance information or all the resources your students may need on campus. So that is scheduled on Monday, August 26th from 2 to 3 p.m. And also lastly, one last event for parents during I/O will be also on Monday, August 26th, parents reception. You will be meeting with some other amazing stakeholders who are also serving international students. And then you can come and ask questions and have a social time with them. So that's all the parents involvement we have during international orientation.
Great, thank you. And we had a question about during the orientation, will there be opportunities for students to spend some time with their families? Or are they really locked into orientation?
I don't know if Andrew have a different answer, but I would say that we would love students to stick to their programming. We have amazing, well-designed program for students, and then students will be, if they have some downtime, they will be spending their time with their mentors, because during international orientation, they will meet with their summer contact in person, and they will also be meeting with their mentors, and they will be assigned to a mentor group, and they can just kind of build a smaller community among themselves. There will be some downtime where, you know, students can spend with their parents, but we highly encourage students to keep all the programming and attend all the programs that belongs to students. But Andrew, feel free to have additional thoughts.
No, I wholeheartedly agree, and I want to make and it brings me to kind of one of my key talking points when discussing international orientation with parents. As Ruby said, there will be downtime, and those spaces can be utilized to reconnect with your student if it feels important for both you and the student. However, we do encourage students to participate fully, especially for the mandatory events. There are a couple of things that are really, really crucial for students to attend for their well-being, for their information, so that they feel prepared to start the year. And this is a great opportunity, if you're sticking around for orientation, to just, you know, reconnect with your student in new ways and to give them the agency to really explore this time together, while also being mindful of, you know, carving out some time for you to be able to spend some time with them in their downtime. So it's a delicate balance, but our message is that hopefully you'll be able to encourage your student to attend and immerse themselves fully, while also utilizing some of that downtime to reconnect as you transition into this new kind of relationship with your student.
Great, thank you. We've had a few questions around getting here, moving in, bringing stuff, shipping stuff. So I want to address a few of those. So one of the questions that just came in was, will there be time for students and places nearby for them to shop for things they may need for their rooms, or should they bring everything they need with them?
I see. Yeah, that's a great question. So it depends on the students and parents. Students can definitely ship their stuff to Brown. They will be receiving emails from Resident Life and Housing to know where to ship their stuff before they're arriving. But we will also be taking students to shopping during the first 2 days of I/O, and we'll be go shopping together to Target, Walmart, and Best Buy near our campus through a shuttle bus. And if your students are interested in buying stuff, we'll be all going together. And they will be also accompanied by our mentors, and our mentor will provide some information about what they need, what they don't need for their first semester at Brown. But yes, we have some shopping places around campus.
Great. And we've had a few questions about room assignments, roommate assignments, dorms. we did a webinar on residential life, but if folks have questions specifically for international students, where they're going to live, how they're going to live, should they start with residential life or should they start with Global Brown?
Yeah, I can take this question. And I actually love the way you asked that, Mikhail, because I think there are two different questions that I think can go to two different places. So if the question is, where are you going to live? If the question is, how do I move in? Where is my dorm? All of those things that are very specific to the logistics and the function of residential life, we highly encourage you to reach out to Residential Life because they're the stakeholders on campus that do those processes. They have that information. But if a student is wondering about the how and the experience of living on a US campus and managing roommates for the first time, especially in a cross-cultural environment, that's something that we would love to talk to your student about. And we would love to connect them with mentors who have been through that experience and can really share from their own experience about how best to be prepared for and navigate that. It's a really exciting time, and sometimes that excitement can be nervous, and sometimes it can be exciting. So if it's logistics, please refer to our colleagues in Residential Life. They're the experts. But if it is about the experience of being on a US campus and what that's going to look like and feel like, we would love to chat with you about that.
Great, thank you. So a couple of folks have asked, when will the IMP mentors start reaching out? Have they already done that? Just some curiosity there.
Awesome. I love this question. Ooh. So the IMP, the first email of IMP will be sending out by July 1st. And then they will be following up 3 times throughout the summer through email. And then they can also be reached in from the WhatsApp session they will be hosting based on their smaller group. So the earliest time your students will hear from our IMP program will be around July 1st, which is in a couple of days.
Great, thank you. We've had a few questions about health insurance, which is very complicated, especially for an international family. I wanted to let everybody know that today at noon, which is probably really late for a lot of you here, we will be doing a webinar that's specifically around insurance, financial aid, and the bursar's office, which if you're not familiar with what a bursar is, that is the office where you pay your bills and tuition. So those 3 offices are going to be on a webinar with me at noon today. We will record it and post it. But if you have specific questions in those areas, please send them to me at family@brown.edu, and I can sort them out and send them where they need to go. Because it is complicated and it is specific to each family situation. One question that's come up a couple times so far in the Q&A is phones. And I don't know, Andrew or Ruby, do you have some advice on phones and phone plans? Or you're shaking your head, Andrew. Let me go to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the cornerstone events that does take place within the first, and Ruby, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's day 1, right?
Yeah, Saturday, August 24th at 12.
Perfect. So on Saturday, August 24th at 12 o'clock, during our international orientation program, that first day, we are going to have a banking and cell phone fair. So this is going to be the first in-person opportunity for students to, if they have questions about opening a bank account. I know that that's another question that comes through several times. So if they're hoping to open up a bank account or start a cell phone plan, there will be a fair with local vendors. So all the folks in Providence that represent banks or cell phone companies to help your students navigate signing up for those different services. Secondarily, I would encourage if your student has any specific questions about doing so beforehand, utilizing the summer contact might be a great way to start. So oftentimes students can share their own personal experience about how they navigated signing up for those various services in Providence. And so those are the 2 resources that we have specifically for banks and cell phones.
Great, thank you. We have questions about vaccinations, and again, I would refer that to health services. I don't know, Andrew, anything else? Just
No, that is exactly where I would recommend going. And I did see a question in the chat asking if this is something the Global Brown Center can help with, or if it's better for the health folks. One of the key things that we do is we know who the experts on campus are. I personally am not an expert on vaccinations or what was the other question? Or taxes as well. That's another one that we are not an expert on, but we get a lot of questions about. So we direct folks to where those experts lie. And for vaccines, it's absolutely our health services.
great, thank you. These are great questions. Everybody keep sending your questions. We'll get to as many as possible. There was a question about accommodations for parents when they're moving their students in. What do most parents usually do if they need accommodations in town?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that as well.
Okay.
Mikhail, maybe you can help me maybe fill in some information. But to my knowledge, there's not any Brown sponsored accommodations for parents that are visiting
That's
during
true, yes.
orientation. And so a lot of our parents will utilize local hotels. I know that some folks use Airbnb as a process as well. There are several hotels in varying costs and varying price ranges that are really, really close to campus. Both on the side of Providence that is close to campus, which is called the East Side or College Hill, but also downtown, which is a 10-minute shuttle ride or taxi ride away. There are many, many other hotel options. So we would encourage you, if you are visiting, to do some research ahead of time to figure out, A, what your price range might be depending on how long you're staying, and see what options are available for you.
Yeah, and I'll add that Providence and Rhode Island are very small. So, looking a little bit outside of Providence, it's still possibly a very quick Uber ride away from campus. So I wouldn't count those out, but I do encourage folks to make their reservations as early as possible. And if you are thinking about coming back for family weekend, I would also look at making those reservations as well. Because although Providence is small, we do have a lot of universities here. So sometimes that can play into the fact and the reality of that. We have had some questions about just acclimating, to life as an international student at Brown. What kind of support, and Andrew, I'll center this to you. What kind of support resources during their entire journey here at Brown do they have? And what do you think, the top adjustments that international students have to make? What would you say that is?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll get started, and then I would love to turn it over to Ruby to fill in any gaps. So I think I'll talk about three, and I like to think about this as kind of a triangle of support, but there's a lot of other things that happen at Brown as well. So I think the Global Brown Center as a space that supports transition, sense of belonging, community building is one corner of the triangle of international student support that I see. The second for our undergraduate students is our international advising team. Oftentimes, international students have a lot of questions about the curriculum, about navigating the classroom, about, in particular, Brown University's open curriculum, which is a really, really exciting form of education that we hope your students are really excited for. But navigating that may be really unique for students given their relationship to education previously. So our international advising team is a specific team that supports international students in all things related to their academic experience and to pursuing internships and work opportunities. Then we have a third piece of that triangle, which is our Office of International Students and Scholar Services, who support our international students in all things visa related and immigration related. So if students have travel questions or need support in their documentation, which can be a really daunting experience for students sometimes, they have a central resource to go to. So those are the resources that immediately come to mind, but there's many, many other resources. And Ruby, I wanted to turn it over to you to see if there's any that you would like to highlight.
Yeah, I would say to prepare international students to arrive on campus, actually it kind of depend on the students themselves, their personality, and then their experience, whether they went through a high school here in the US or they went through high school overseas. But I think overall, I see from both demographics, no matter whether they have been in the States for a while or not, students may feel a little bit overwhelmed when they first arrive on campus. They may overwhelmed by the cultural shock. They may overwhelmed by the new, higher education system. They may be overwhelmed by oceans of resources we have at Brown. That's how I felt when I first started at Brown. We have so many resources and I don't even know where to start. And they are going to be lots of programs and lots of events going on their time at Brown, and to pick where to go to balance their time, to, be, be wellness centered can be very important. And I would say definitely encourage your students to be prepared to be a little bit overwhelmed by the resources and support, as well as maybe a few of the challenges. And always have them to know that we're here to support your students, and have them to step out a little bit from their comfort zone to make friends, to stay connected with other students, their mentors, and to stay open-minded. There will be tons of different opinions, tons of different values going around within our community. And we definitely want your students to be engaged in those conversations, voice up their their opinions, their concerns, and their sharings are really valued. And lastly, I would say to prepare for new international students to have a sense of belonging at Brown is patience. Sometimes it takes lots of time to make new friends. Even though our mentors will try their best to connect their students and then to help them to build community, sometimes we understand it takes time to cultivate friendships, to cultivate community. And we saw in the past, students maybe feel frustrated within the first few months on campus. They feel like they don't have friends, they feel lonely. Those are all the normal emotions students may go through when they are adjusting and making transition to the US. So I would definitely say, be mindful for your students for that time period of transition, and encourage them to have patience and stay engaged with us.
That's great advice. Thank you so much. And I know you're both such a great support for our international cohort of students. We've had some questions about food. What kind of food is offered during the international orientation? And then also, how does the meal plan play into that? Does it start when international students arrive, or do they get a little bit of a buffer time?
The meal plan will start during the move-in time, and we will also cater food based on the day during our events. Sometimes, like for example, one day on Monday, we'll have brunch with the president, and also family members are invited to join the brunch with our president as well. And if students who have food restrictions, we will collect those information in the international orientation registration form. So we will make sure that your students, their needs will be met during our international orientation. And if you have, you can check in with your students in the chat. I just sent a link. That is the registration form for international orientation. Please check with your students. This is for students to fill out only, not for parents. So if your students haven't filled it out, which I know that close to half of our students have not filled it out yet. It's been sent for 2 weeks ago. So please encourage your students to fill out our international orientation. And if they do have food restrictions, they can fill out on the form.
Great, thank you so much. I'm looking through some of the questions we received in advance. We've answered a bunch of them, but one question that was interesting somebody asked was, what's the one thing that everybody forgets? But, Andrew, you're shaking your head. Do you have something?
I I do. I have a and this is more of an abstract kind of idea. So Ruby, if you have anything concrete in terms of logistics, I would love to hear it. But I think oftentimes our students, when they're preparing to come to campus, they're packing everything and they're getting themselves ready. They think about obviously what's important, right? They think about making sure they have their clothes, making sure they have any toiletries or you know, things from home, making sure that they have all of their computer and their laptop and their chargers and everything that they need. Oftentimes students forget to bring things that feel like home. And so something that I would encourage you to have your student think about is maybe what's one small thing that won't take up too much space, too much very precious space in their suitcase that they can put on their desk or put on their wall that reminds them of home, that reminds them of family, of friends, of memories, so that they can enter our community, build a home here, right? That's our job, cultivating a home away from home, but to bring a little piece of their experience and their history with them. We think about making sure everything fits in the suitcase. Bring a little bit of home with you, is my advice.
Oh my gosh, I love that. That was such a great answer. Ruby, anything you can think of?
Yeah, I love that answer as well. I think if I would add, I would say, don't forget the support system back home, because students, oftentimes when they come to the States, they got so excited, they want to, experience everything. And sometimes when they feel some challenges, or it's at the time when it's very hard to navigate, and they oftentimes forgot about their home support system, whether it's their friends or their family over there. So I will encourage you. It might depend on your students. They may remind you to rely on you too much, but anyway, so I think it's nice to remind the students you're always there for them, and then don't have them forget about you guys back home, and stay in contact, and then reach out to you for help, or for emotional support if they need. I think for me, when I was remembering during my study time early on, I think talking to my parents really helped me a lot when I have homesickness here in the States. So definitely remind them to don't forget about their parents and the friends back home.
That's fantastic. But if they don't call you, it's also okay. But it's probably good to talk about that before they leave for Brown, so you're both on the same page about what to expect. Can we talk a little bit about campus safety and security that's on campus, and how we keep our students safe here? Andrew, do you want to start with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So right off the bat, I'll say both you and your students, if you're thinking of attending international orientation, will hear directly from our Department of Public Safety. We always include the Department of Public Safety in our parents panel that Ruby had mentioned, to ensure parents have a lot of questions about safety. So we want to make sure that we have an expert on that panel who can address your concerns. For those who may not be able to attend, I can share a little bit of information. So we have, there's a couple of safety mechanisms on campus. First of all, Providence is a relatively safe community. We are a university that is within a community. We're not a gated university. So right outside, there's a Brown building and there's a home that belongs to a Providence community member, really right next to each other. So we're really integrated into the east side of Providence, which I kind of love. And I think our students get to experience a lot of culture while they're here. So there are realities that come with that, right? We have to be mindful about safety. We have to be mindful that we aren't in a closed community. That being said, where we are is a relatively safe area, and we have a lot of mechanisms on campus to encourage safety. We have our DPS, Department of Public Safety, that supports students, that does regular walks and helps support safety on campus in general. We also have a blue light system. So there are big blue lights everywhere on campus that kind of serve as an emergency function. So if a student does experience some sort of safety concern, they can press a button on a local blue light and someone will be there immediately. All students also on their ID card have the numbers for emergency public safety and non-emergency public safety phones. So there's always someone, a very, very short call away. Additionally, we look to peer-to-peer support for safety quite a bit during orientation. During international orientation, we do something called the nighttime tours on our first night, which is a newish tradition that we have fallen in love with. Our students will be walked around campus at night for the first time, probably, by a mentor. So our goal in doing that is to help students feel a little bit more comfortable walking around campus at night, and that the first time they're navigating the space in the dark is with someone that they can trust, one of our peer leaders. So I hope that that kind of gives a good vision of what safety is like on campus and what supports we have available.
Yeah, that's fantastic. We've got just a few minutes left, so I want to give Ruby some quick orientation questions. You ready, Ruby? Okay, we're going to speed round this one. So, do parents have to register for the international orientation?
That's a great question. Parents do not have to register for international orientation. As students will claim their parents, and they will be able to answer how many family member they will be bringing to the orientation. Will be basing off that. And during the international orientation check-in time, we will also have to have parents to check in with us as well, so we know how many parents will be joining our reception. But parents do not need to fill out any forms before they arrive on campus.
Okay, so nothing in advance. When they're here, they can sign up.
Yeah.
Okay. If they miss the first day of cell phone and banking sign up, is it too late, or will they have other options?
I've read a lot of scholarships in terms of, the importance of international orientation. And I've been seeing, we highly encourage students to not miss any of the days during our international orientation, but there's any reasons that is unexpected, students have to miss that day, we will be able to connect the students to recommend some of the nearby vendors with both for banking and cell phone, and the students can go and then talk to them. We have banks downtown, our small downtown area by our campus. Students can check out. There's also T-Mobile and phone bill, SIM card companies where students can get SIM cards. So their mentors will be able to direct them to the right direction. But we still want your students to participate in the whole program.
Okay. What if somebody, due to travel plans, has to get here a little bit earlier? Can they have the option with Residential Life to move in earlier? Is
that question I love. I love students arrive early than late. But so if students have to arrive a little bit early and they wish to live on campus and move in earlier, they will reach out to the Resident Life to see if they can move in earlier. And then the cost for moving earlier will be actually on the students, and they will have to pay for their early moving costs. I believe it's $45 per night, around that time.
okay? So it's a daily rate that would be added.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are blankets, pillows, and sheets provided in the dorm rooms for international students?
Wonderful question. They're not unfortunately provided and for the students. And when I was a student, and I actually ordered from Amazon and I have it delivered. So when I arrive, I have everything ready to pick up. So that's an option. But I don't know, Andrew, if you have any options. Well, you guys can also join us for the shopping trip. But Andrew, please.
No, I second all of that. I think pillows, blankets take up a lot of space in luggage. So I would highly recommend following Ruby's advice and maybe using Amazon or another business to ship those materials to the students on campus mailbox, which they will receive, I believe, in early August is when Res Life communicates that with them.
Yeah, and on the Residential Life website, there is a lot of information, including what's included in the dorm rooms, so you can get a sense of what's going to be there and really plan out what you're going to buy. Ruby, I know you have to run. Any final thought before you go?
Yeah, thank you, Mikhail. And I think that this is an exciting time for everyone. I know some of you all as parents may be a little sad to sending off, or maybe some of you guys are happy and having a party, so your students are gone. So no matter where you're at in the emotional spectrum, I think it's a very exciting opportunity, and I the way I view Ivy League, the way I view Brown education is really with preparing your students with critical thinking, with a lot of challenges, but also opportunities for them to grow as be ready and prepared to be a global citizen, which I'm very, very excited for your students. So it's an amazing adventure. I would say as parents, I only advice I may have for you is to sit back and enjoy. And then when your students need support them, but let them thrive with us.
Fantastic. Ruby, go to your conference. We'll talk to you later. Thank you so much. Before I turn over to Andrew for his final thoughts, I'm going to put a survey link in the chat so that you can all tell us your feedback. This helps us to provide additional information for you and improve our services to you. So please, I encourage everybody to fill that out. Andrew, final thoughts for this group?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you so much, Mikhail, for building the structure and for allowing us to engage with our new community members, with our new parents and families of our incoming international students. And so I have two kind of pieces of final advice or final thoughts. The first is, in this moment, we often talk about the student experience. We often talk about the transition for the student. And that's our job, right? That's the international orientation. That's our big focus. But I want to take a moment to just talk about the transition for you all. This is not just a transition for your students, but it's also a transition for you. This is going to be a change in the way that you communicate with your student. It's going to be a change in the proximity to your student. And so there's going to be learning on all sides of this, wonderful next step that you and your family are taking. And so I just encourage you to also check in with yourself. Also, be with your own thoughts, be with your own emotions too. And as Ruby said, whether you're on the excited end of the spectrum or the nervous and scared side of the spectrum, all of those experiences are valid. And just know that we are thinking of you as well. Think about yourself, because we are. And lastly is really helping your student lean in to this new period of agency. At Brown, we're going to ask your student first. We're going to communicate with your student first. Our mentors are going to be reaching out to your students. As Ruby said, even with our registration form, your students tell us who is attending with them. And this is kind of the framework that we lean into, because it is a period of agency for your student. And so help them lean into that, encourage that, give them the space to thrive and be there as a support system, as you have always been. Remember that they are coming with everything that you have taught them, and that's a lot. That's really powerful. And so have faith in your student, have faith in the relationships that you have built, and give them space to learn, grow, and thrive with you supporting in the background.